you've got an amazing advisory board. So I'm curious, like in terms of how were you able to sell? Well, first of all, how were you able to gain access to so many phenomenal people? But then, in addition, being able to communicate your vision in a way that was contagious.
A lot of the advisory members we got was on cold emails. I think a lot of times if you can be very open when you're communicating with people, you realize that they really do want to help young people. I think a lot of people that reach certain success are there for a reason, and then they look back, they're like, for us it was the mission. I think a lot of the filmmakers we have on the board really believe in that mission, and they've been, people like Spielberg have been, working on democratization of content. They're innovate, the guy invented CG, so for him he gets that better than anyone, I think. So I think for us it was just people kind of believing our mission and thinking, that we could do it. And obviously some of the members like Greg Tratner, Bob Schwab, my personal mentors that I've known for a long, long time. Joe Russo has been absolutely incredible. I think Russo brothers really do understand, kids trying to make content and storytellers that are not, they do these film festivals, they do a lot of, so, we've been following Agbo and them for a while, and that was another one that was just kind of an intro of a person I knew. And then we showed him what we're thinking, and Joe got it immediately. He was like, "Oh, this shit's gonna change everything." So he was really, really supportive, and I mean everybody really from advisory board. So for us, we've been really humbled by it. But my advice, I meet a lot of startup founders, first-time startup founder, which is myself as well, I think, and they have this perception, oh, you really need to know a lot of people to get to these. And we tell them, no, actually, you need to send a lot of emails and be very stubborn. One of my mentors I mentioned earlier, Bob Schwab, he had a story. He's in a different industry. He's in real estate, but he tells me this story, which was really brilliant. There was this guy in LA that was like top of the line real estate, and Bob starting his career didn't do anything. And he really tried to get a meeting. And someone told him like, if you want to be successful, if you get to work with this guy, even if he's bringing his mail, like that's what you want to learn from. So he said he had like $3,000 in his bank account, and he rented this billboard across from the guy's office, spent all his money, put a billboard. He's like, "Dear Mister, my name is Bob Schwab. Please call me on this number." I think he was like 21 years old. And the guy, saw that, and he called him. He's like, I just want to see who's this crazy person did this. He ended up working for him, and that ended up changing his career completely. So we think of our field as creative field, and I need to be only creative on my work. But you really need to be creative on things that get you that work, or how do you distribute that work? How do you market it? That's equally important. There's a lot of creativity in business. There's a lot of creativity in coding. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I learned is like, these engineers are creative, so creative. And like, you don't, sometimes you don't give them as much credit on that.
Yeah, I love that because, you were talking earlier about writing, and yeah, I think it's something that's so applicable to everything, and it's not, I'm an artist in this small slither of a vertical, so it's important to exercise that as much as you can, and I love that. I love the really ballsy, innovative ideas that people put out there to see how they can do something different, because you're right, when you're just doing cold calling, you got the gatekeepers you got to navigate around, and on top of that, you really got to try and get people to buy in on you, which can be pretty hard. You bring up mentors quite a lot, and that to me is something I'm always fascinated with, just because, again, it's such a ambiguous thing for a lot of people. Like, okay, how do I get mentors? But for you, like, what do you think has been your superpower in terms of being able to attract mentors to you who want to get behind you, knowing how little time that they have?
Well, for me, I played tennis all my life. My dad is a tennis coach, and I moved here, on a tennis scholarship. I got really lucky. It took me a while. I started coaching tennis when I was like 16 years old, and I couldn't really afford to move to US, but I had one-way ticket, and I got into school. No money whatsoever. I just moved literally a one-way ticket, and I was really fortunate to have tennis. That was a skill. I had a cousin of mine when I was a kid. He told me, he said, he's like, there's always going to be better looking and smarter people than you always coming up, younger generation. He said, the most important thing you can get in life is skills, right? And he said, if you see your neighbor painting a fence, go help him for 2 hours. You'll learn how to paint a fence. And that kind of stuck with me, like when I was a kid. So, tennis was one skill that I learned, and coaching was something I learned. So when I moved here, I obviously started working in visual effects early during college, and after college, started working on films. But I didn't want to stay in it full time. I wanted to start something on my own, and I wanted to, tell stories, make films. And innovation was really always like something that fascinated me. I also saw it was really hard to get some of these successful people because they're really busy. So if you book a meeting and you go to their office on their territory, they're not going to open up completely. It's like a kind of business thing. But I saw if I play tennis with them, or I coach them tennis, or I give them free lessons, I can spend hours with them. They just want to hit a forehand like I do, and I want to be like them. So, I think I had all these mentors I made were, fortunate because of that. Because I would, spend my weekends working at this country club close by, where I would just sit down with these people and pick their brain. And I think really important thing is that you got to be genuine about that. You just want to get knowledge from them. I think a lot of people at that level have a lot of people that are trying to have transactional relationships, and they try and get something right from them. But if you stick around long enough and you don't ask for any favors or anything, you just genuinely want to learn. After a while, they'll see you're genuine, and they'll be like, okay, let me help this kid. Let me give him advice or two. Because I think everybody likes to, give advice and leave that as a legacy. And that's something in general that I appreciate really about the US. That's something that when I moved here, I really saw. Like, people here, a lot of people, like, I'm a bit naive. I do believe American dream is alive. And I do think, like, here, when you're surrounded with these people with a lot of positivity, they're just gonna, you can do whatever you want. You just gotta work hard. You gotta, believe in your dreams. And that's something that you don't really hear everywhere around the world. And that's something that here is like, it's addicting when you get it. But when you stay here for a while, you take it for granted. So when you travel and you come back, you're like, okay, this is good.
You're absolutely right. Like, I'm from Australia, obviously a bit different from Serbia, but it's something I'm always fascinated with when it comes to foreigners versus, like, especially living in the US, because it is something I think a lot of people here can take for granted in different ways, but it's just there is so much opportunity, and at the same time, it's something like I was talking with a coordinator recently, like a VFX coordinator that's originally from Peru, and so it's just, both being foreigners, it was just something that, I think that people can take it for granted, but at the same time, they, sometimes you get jealous too of, like, me growing up when the internet in the world was a lot smaller. It would be one of those, it's so easy for someone just to show up to ILM because they know 3D or whatever, opposed to, got to get a visa, got to qualify for a visa, so got to go take, it's a massive roadmap just to get to qualify, where someone else just instantly gets that because they're born regionally in the right place. It is one of those things that when you do arrive at the table, then you can either choose to coast, or you can say, okay, like, how do I do the most damage I can? And really build that momentum.